Your second stimulus check is going to be coming, but will be arriving in a New York minute. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Afternoons LALATE. Wow, what a day this has been. It's 3:40 Pacific Standard Time, and big news that your second stimulus check could still be coming very soon. Let me get right to it. This is Afternoons LALATE every day at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. Starts with a check, which is this video, then goes to hazard pay at 4, FPUC at 4:30, and finally rent assistance thereafter. And boy, this 2-hour programming block is off to a big start, as the day started with Steve Mnuchin confirming all the details of the second stimulus negotiations, the amount of the check, the time of delivery, the items that have been agreed upon, all reported exclusively on this channel for over 2 weeks. He confirmed them this morning, and now we know what was held up and why it was held up. If you didn't watch morning's LALATE, we detailed it for you. I'm going to go into more detail right now. Let me get to the breaking news. First of all, Steve Mnuchin, appearing on CNBC this morning, the business channel, confirmed that a second stimulus check deal had been reached between him and the Democrats no more than 2 weeks ago. That's exactly what this channel has been reporting for over 2 weeks. An agreement was reached about the check, but unfortunately, because the check was part of a stimulus package, there was one big provision in the package that didn't get you that check. No one besides myself was reporting what that actual holdup was. We detailed them on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend that it was a $1 billion bailout to states that was holding up and strangleholding your check to go out. And Steve Mnuchin confirmed that this morning. Let me get to the details. So there is an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats as a stimulus check. The stimulus check will be $1,200. $1,200, one check coming to you, whether you are a single individual, whether you're an adult dependent, a minor dependent. It appears that the Republicans defaulted away from their $500 minor dependent or adult dependent payout. If you recall, their second stimulus package was only going to pay them $500. The Democrats wanted to pay $1,200. It appears that they agreed to that. It appears also that they agreed to everything else about the check. $1,200 up to three dependents if you're filing on a dependent's return. And, yeah, you're asking about child support. It's likely that the Republicans, based upon the way he was talking, may have also agreed to the Democrats' proposal of not taking out for child support for the second stimulus check. Next, the delivery and the manner of delivery. Before I get to that, let me say the obvious. If you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and Railroad benefits, you're getting a check. What this channel has been reporting for over a month ago, no one was looking out for you. No one was talking about SSDI and SSI and Social Security people. In fact, one viewer sadly commented over the weekend, they didn't make a deal because they don't want to give SSDI and SSI recipients a check. No, they agreed to give you a check. That's the great news. They didn't agree to give a big bailout to states, and that's why your check has been stranglehold for now. They agree to the time of delivery. So if you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, or Railroad benefits, you're going to get it by electronic means if that's the way you get your benefits. Isn't this great? If you receive them by, direct deposit or by debit card, I told you first that you're going to get it the same way. Moreover, if you got your first stimulus check a certain way, it would come the second way. There's also big great news because the two sides, the Democrats and Republicans, agreed that they didn't like that first stimulus check. They didn't like that adult dependents, people 17 years or age of older, did not get a first stimulus check because they were not eligible. They got rid of that. So they agreed that everyone gets a check this time, and a full check, not a watered down check. Isn't this incredible news? So why are we sitting here and we don't have the check in our hand? And when would we get the check in our hand? And what has to be involved to get the check? It's important to not be my donut guy. The donut guy is the guy that holds the donut and says, I'll just tell you when I get my check and we'll be fine with it. Well, it's unfortunate that even in this situation, you can't be the donut guy because there are still mechanisms that you have to do, perhaps, to ensure you get the second stimulus check. So I'm here to help you, inform you, inspire you. The most important situation in which you need to ensure that you get a second stimulus check, even though you're eligible, even though I'm telling you you're eligible, you have to do something, are the two groups of people. First, if you're on benefits, if you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, Railroad benefits, and you have a child, and you don't file tax returns, then you need to do a non-filer filing. An example of that is someone who's on SSDI and has an 18-year-old son. You don't file tax returns. The IRS knows where you are. They can get you your stimulus check, but they don't know where that 18-year-old is. Now, I'm going to say something very obvious, but I want you to understand it. Anyone else that thinks they're sort of in a situation where there's a person in their household that qualifies for a check, but the IRS doesn't know that individual exists, you should do a non-filer as well. And most obvious example is those people who I'm congratulating that have a brand new 1-year-old child or 6-month-old child. Congratulations. The bad news is the IRS doesn't know you have it. If you didn't list that child on the most recent tax return, the IRS doesn't know you have a child. That child qualifies for a stimulus check in some regards. Next, the people who newly went on benefits this year, you started SSI, SSI, Social Security, Railroad benefits this year, you need to do a non-filer filing as well. Next, if you've done a non-filer before, you don't have to do it again. Third, if you are unsure whether you have to do a filer or a non-filer or not, you're just a little confused about it, don't worry, because doing it doesn't get you in trouble. Just it's an additional element of precaution. Next, the time of delivery. Time of delivery, it depends on whether or not you are set up with the IRS for electronic delivery or you're not. There are two types of people. There are people who receive their benefits for SSDI, SSI by direct deposit or electronic delivery, or there are those that receive it by paper check. There are those people who are not on benefits who file taxes, and that when they have to pay their taxes, they have an account on file with the IRS, and when there's a refund, they get that by direct deposit. Those are my electronic people. I don't mean to call you electronic. I'm not calling you Mr. Robot. I'm just saying you're my electronic people. My non-electronic people, which is not shade. I'm not calling you old school. I'm not calling you inept. You're not less of a person because I'm calling you non-electronic. You are my people who receive things by paper check. You love paper in your hand. A lot of people do. And so you are my second group of people. How soon could you get our checks? How soon can we get our checks, not chicks, checks, LALATE. Boy, it's an exciting day. I want you to pull out a calculator, a calendar, and a pencil and a pen, or a piece of paper and a pen, and mark this down with me. This is how we know exactly the routing dates and times. First, it's going to take, I'm going to do my electronic people, it's going to take 3 days for the bank to process the electronic deposit at most. Some banks do it 1 day. So we're going to start with 3 days. Next, we're going to add 7 days on it. Steve Mnuchin, who's head of Treasury, said that it takes 7 days from enactment into law for the IRS to send out the second stimulus check. So 7 plus 3, we're at 10 days. We're going to do calendar days. We're not going to do business days. 10 days. Okay. How long does it take for these nincompoops to get it to sign into law? Well, the moment in which Nancy and Chuck emerge from that room and says, we have a deal, then they have to send it to the Senate floor to be voted upon. They may have to call the senators back into town if they're on vacation. Yeah, I'm not going to do the shade of that yet. And so I would add 2 days for the Senate to get it ratified into law. So we're now at 12 days. How long does it take for the president to sign it? Because the president has to sign it into law after it becomes law, because after the Senate signs it. You know, he could do it in a couple hours, but let's add 1 more day. So we're around 12 to 13 days after Steve and Nancy come from that room and say, we have a deal. 12 to 13 days for you to literally receive the funds. This is incredibly great news. I mean, this is basically less than 14 days if Nancy and Chuck made a deal, Nancy and Steve made a deal today. If Nancy and Steve make a deal this Friday, at 14 days from there. What's really great news is that I've been doing this video for about a month, and I've always said that you would likely get your check around late August, early September. We're still on time to get the check when we thought the check was going to come. So this is really good news. My paper check delivery people, I would add an additional week. Because it takes about a week for the IRS to get the check from there to you. What's going on? So here's the backstory. The second stimulus check is part of a big package, and a lot of people were talking about negotiations over the last couple of days. I wasn't talking about them superficially in the clouds. I was going line item number, amount of money with you, and I calculated based upon hours and hours of research what was going on. I said to you that there was an agreement on the stimulus check, there was an agreement on hazard pay, there was an agreement on FPUC, there was an agreement on rent assistance, there was an agreement on student debt, there was an agreement on food stamps, there was an agreement on PPP. There was an agreement on those things, but there was one big ticket item that there was not an agreement on, and I broke that to you late last week. $1 billion big ticket item. It's not your stimulus check. It's a bailout to states. And Steve Mnuchin this morning confirmed every single part of this channel's reporting for over 2 weeks. The amounts of items that were approved, including your stimulus check, the items that were the level of negotiations, where they started and where they ended, and why there was no deal currently, a big bailout of states. What's at issue in this bailout of states is the following, and I'm not going to do a lot of it in this video because this is really about your check. But basically, the states in the first stimulus round went to the federal government and said, hey, we can't make payroll. We can't pay our employees in our states. We need money. Give us money. So the federal government said, fine, we're going to give you money. They absolutely gave them money. There's no dispute about them. They gave them a lot of money. The problem is that those states and local municipalities, which is basically a fancy way to say city and counties, didn't spend that money on you. Didn't spend it on civil employees, whether you're sanitations or public work officials or you work the streets for the city or the county. They didn't spend the money on you. What did they do? They laid you off. They kept the money and they laid you off. So this time around, they came back and said, hey, give us some more money. And Nancy and Chuck put it in their proposal of $1 trillion. Now, I personally know that this is very, very rampant here in Southern California. I personally know there were several cities that did this, that took an enormous amount of money, didn't give it to the employees, fired them, laid them off, asked them to take early termination, early retirement, and didn't use that money for the employees. They used them for the local government. Why are they using your money for local government? Let me explain to you why. Here's an example. A city makes a lot of money on hotels. Hotels are shut down because of the lockdown. Hotels have no revenue. The city normally would make fortunes on the taxes against that business, that hotel. Well, when the business is closed, the city doesn't make that money. So then the city says, oh, wait a second, we can't make our budget because we don't have any money from taxes from that business. Well, this time around, Republicans are saying, have you been saving your money all these years, or have you just been spending all your money all these years? Moreover, we gave you money the first time around to use it for employees. What are you doing with the money this time? Third, they said, we actually have tracked that you haven't spent the money. Now, these allegations are really incredulous, but I've detailed on this channel for weeks that certain counties or states have actually done that. New York, Governor Cuomo, debuted just 2 weeks ago a grant program for rent to his citizens of his state after having that money for almost 3 months for the first stimulus round. And so that is really what's fascinating here. There is a compromise if the Democrats want to realize where we are. This is Steve Mnuchin this morning. The schools, the president wanted to ensure that there was enough money to open the schools. The Democrats proposed $100 billion. We proposed $105 billion. We met in the middle and we made an agreement. Agreement number one. We wanted more money on PPP. They didn't give any money on PPP. We made an agreement. We got money for PPP. Second agreement. These are the negotiations that he's detailing this morning that involved your check. Your check wasn't agreed upon. They agreed to send out your check. We agreed on more direct payment like last time. Direct payment is your stimulus check. They agreed on sending out your check. Democrats wanted more money for food stamps. We agreed to that. We didn't give enough money. We agreed on a lot of stuff, but we're not giving $1 trillion for state and local governments. How do we get something to small businesses right now? Now, this is talking about PPP and then FPUC, which I'm going to talk about later. But then he said, I have the data from the states. This is Steve Mnuchin. I have the data from the states. The state has more money left over from last time. I've given them flexibility of how to use that money for firefighters, employees. No reason to lay them off. We have more money on the table. Certain states have financial issues. They had big financial issues going into the pandemic. They were not financially strong. New York keeps on raising taxes. People are moving out of New York. That was their problem. It had nothing to do with the pandemic. Your check is not coming in a New York minute because New York is coming back saying, give us a lot of money because everyone is leaving New York because they raised the taxes. Unrelated to the stimulus situation. Is there a constitutional limit on how much you can borrow, Mr. Secretary, was the question. Yes, but we're not at that now. The $3 trillion we spent plus the $1 trillion, we're not at that. And this is what's fascinating. So as you see, the Democrats proposed $3 trillion and the Republicans proposed $1 trillion. Your check is not $1 trillion. It's just not. My shirt is not $1 trillion. There's nothing in here is $1 trillion. But ultimately, the $1 trillion was this bailout to states that don't need the money. This is the bailout to states who need to sit behind you after you get your check. These are states who can go get loans. I've detailed that a lot on this channel. The Main Street Lending Program, which is a very, very wonderful loan from the Federal Reserve, the states can go get a loan. They don't want a loan. They want free money. They want a grant so that they never have to pay it off. And they want a grant with no contingency so that they can use the money to fire its employees and then use it for their own beautification or whatever they do it for. It's not right. So when asked, well, would you split the difference, Mr. Secretary, between $1 trillion and $3 trillion to come to an agreement of $2 trillion? He says, no. We're not splitting it to make sense. We're not going to spend money on states. We split on food. We split on things that were right. We split on food. She was right. We split on food through 2021. We can go down the list. We split on everything else. They got you your stimulus check. The Republicans and Democrats got you the stimulus check. It was this darn bailout of states that held up your check. Are we going back into a meeting yet? Again, so that is the big question. Ultimately, it's going to turn on, as we sit here on Monday afternoon, there's no question you're getting the check. It's confirmed you're getting a check. It's confirmed the amount you're getting the check. It's confirmed the eligibility of your check. The question is, when are you getting your check? Because your check is being held up, being held ransom by a lot of other gobbledygook, a big bailout of states that shouldn't be in there. Ultimately, what I wanted to say to you is the following on a personal note. When this channel launched, we did EIDL and PUA for a lot of viewers, and they applied and they waited and they didn't get it. And they waited and they didn't get it. And they waited and they didn't get it. And I said, keep faith, keep motivation, make sure you got it on file, make sure you did it right. You're going to get the money. Eileen Beckenkamp out of Florida, one of my early viewers, Florida was slow on getting her the money. She eventually got the money, $9,000. But she had to have patience. Ultimately, we're at a moment of patience. You're going to get the stimulus check. You will get your stimulus check. The point is that it's not getting approved this day. It could get approved tomorrow. It could get approved this week. Finally, let me address one side issue. There are some people who do this on other channels who have said there's a $1,600 stimulus check. There is not. There's an $1,800 or $2,400 stimulus check. There's not. They have it in their thumbnails. There is not. And I'm getting a lot of questions about it. It's very unfortunate. But what they're doing is they're taking FPUC, which a lot of you don't even qualify for, and they're taking the number of FPUC of $400 per week, timesing it by four weeks in the month, and saying you're getting a stimulus check of $1,600. No, that's not called a stimulus check. FPUC is not a stimulus check. It's called unemployment benefits, part of the stimulus package. So you're not getting, and a lot of people don't even qualify for it unless you're on unemployment benefits or on FPUA. So for people to tell you that you're getting a $1,600 stimulus check or $1,800 stimulus check when you really need money right now, and you really need at this moment, is just a bad state of the situation. That's why I want you to stay with me. Our goal over the next 2 weeks is to reach 200,000 subscribers. We're going to do it. No one's doing this type of in-depth reporting for you. No one's going through the numbers. Coming up next is hazard pay. I got a lot of detail for you that as well. So go to the front of this channel where there's a subscribe and alert button. Hit the subscribe, hit the alert. I will give you updates as they come by the minute. As always, stay motivated, stay inspired, stay positive, stay smiling, and stay with Ally for more.